Welcome back, everyone. I'm Kaya Carrington-Russell, Australian award-winning author of Kick Butt Heroines in Dark Romantic Worlds, and I have a very special guest for you today. We are talking to a best-selling author known for her dark romance with a dash of suspense, but not to forget to mention also the dark anti-heroes and sassy heroines. We are talking to the one and only S. Massery. How are you today?
I am great. I love that intro. Thank you.
Well, you're amazing. That's how we're starting this.
Just starting on a good note. I appreciate that.
Tell me more.
Keep going.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I stalked you a little bit, so like I could tell you all of your accolades, all of your date. No, I'm kidding, not that far, but maybe. So because I know you started in 2018, I hope that's
Mhm.
accurate. Is my stalking correct?
Yes, it is.
Look at me, you're gonna be like, I need to get off this interview. Take me back to the start of your writing career. Where were you at the start? Why did you even want to start writing? And when was the snowball effect in your career to build to who you are today?
Oh gosh, it really was kind of like a snowball effect. Things just kept piling on. But back in 2018, I was working for my dad, um, in my hometown in Massachusetts in the US, and like, typical small town. There's not much to do. And I was working in hospitality before that. And even prior to that, I went to school and I ended up majoring in English writing. And so I did a lot of writing, short stories. We did like memoirs and stuff, like short, 10-page things like that. So I really got started writing creatively there, although I would say I was definitely writing creatively before that, and that's kind of what led into the college experience. But I never had an idea that I felt like was big enough until I was working for my dad, and I was very bored. Sorry, Dad, if he's watching this. Um, and yeah, I had an idea that felt like it could carry me through to the end, and it did. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not waiting around to like find an agent and, go through the querying process with publishers. I mean, I'm sure I could have. Like it would have been doable. It's doable for a lot of authors, but I was way too impatient. And so I just went full throttle into self-publishing, and I mean, it led to here. So I would say it worked out for the best, but in the beginning, it was rough. I made every mistake possible. Um, 5 books were just kind of like little tiny bumps in the road. And we finally get to Wicked Dreams, which is my first in the Fallen Royal series. That was my first bully romance. So that was my first like dark
Yeah.
book. And bully romance was very big at the time. This was early 2020. And that was my first like actual blip, in my sales charts. And I was like, oh, like people like this. They're starting to like say my name in Facebook groups. Like, okay. So I kept going along that track, and then it was just like little snowball effect, as you said, until the hockey gods hit, and then it was like, okay, hockey's where it's at. Dark hockey is where it's at, and that's led us to today.
What I love about this too is you navigated sort of where to go because obviously that's where your readership was as well. How
Mhm.
did you handle the exponential growth? Because a lot of people, it's so exciting, it's exactly what you want, but it's a lot to keep up with. And then you have this completely different pressure, not only in writing, but you really have to scale up the business side as well, which I think a lot of people don't understand until you get there. So, how did you manage that?
I don't know that I managed it all that well. I think I still deny a lot of it. If anyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you're really popular," I'm like, "I'm not popular." Like we have like brutal obsession doing the work, I think, but like that's about it. Like people don't know me. I don't. And then they're like, "You're crazy." You are. And I'm like, okay, disagree, but okay. So yeah, I don't think on the like mental side, I've really grasped any of it. Going to signings is surreal though, because a lot of more people. And I remember going to my first signing, I sold maybe 4 books.
Yeah.
versus now, which is a lot more than 4 books, which I'm so grateful for, but it's still a bit mind-blowing. Um, yeah. So, but the business side, like as far as I've I've had to unclench my fists of controlling everything, which is very hard because I just want to I do everything. I want to do everything. I know everything. I'm like, no, we have assistants, we have a team, we can not micromanage them, and we can write, and it's great, and it's fine. We don't panic about it.
Think as authors, delegation is one of the hardest things for us because you're right in the sense that when we start out, we learn everything ourselves because we don't have that budget to have, well, most of us don't have the budget to have somebody else to do it. So in the first couple of years, we're learning all of those things. And then it becomes really difficult to find the right team, to find the right personal assistant. So how did you source that? Was it recommendations from friends? Was it Googling? Was it from groups, trial and error? How did you go with that?
I'd say a little bit of trial and error, but the assistant that I still have now, I hired her on in 2020 when the third right after the third of the Fallen Royals came out. And I was starting to get into audiobooks, and luckily she's a big audio person because I knew nothing. And so I hired her on from word of mouth, and I was like, "You like audio, right?" She's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Can you just like help me?" And so she did, and that was great. And she still helps me to this day. Just yesterday, we were talking about narrators. I was like running like lists of narrators by her, and she's like, ding, 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 ding. I'm like, okay, thank you. So yeah, that was her. And then I just brought on my best friend who, I mean, she's read all my stuff. She always reads my stuff, and she's the most supportive person. But I was like, I need someone I can fully trust to do like the not accounting like bookkeeping, but she does like invoicing. She's taken over my Facebook ads. She does like the more like stuff I don't really want to trust a stranger with. So very grateful for those two things. Those two people in my life. One was a stranger and one I knew before.
We love you both. Thank you.
Yeah, you save me on a constant daily basis.
When we do air this, it's going to be a little bit later after the release, but right now it's only been a day since the Pucking Coach's Daughter has released. So this is a dark hockey reverse harem. Credit to you for mixing those things together. I was like, girl, stop it. But tell us a little bit about this book. Was there any different experiences or any obstacles you had while writing it as well?
Yeah, one surprising obstacle I had was when I started writing this book, I had four completely different characters. Same like college setting, same world, same kind of like similar plot line, but as I was starting to write it, it just didn't work. And I threw away all of it. Like normally I write a bit and then I start over because I realize I didn't start in the right place. And but I keep the characters because the characters I'm like I'm just getting to know them. No. I got rid of everything, like new characters. It was a weird experience having to start that over. So that was a hurdle.
And especially because now you've had a couple books, you would have a particular process at the moment now. So to completely scrap it, wow.
Yeah, I was like, I was really not liking it, which is kind of surprising because I liked it in the beginning when I started. I'm like, okay, this is where we're going. And then it just, I don't know, maybe my brain was being weird that week and we just took a detour and I couldn't recover from it. So yeah, I ended up deleting all of it. And then I went to a writing retreat with some friends and I wrote probably half of the book when I was there in a week. So we got off to a better start very fast.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the take two
Oh,
and
yes.
end result of this book?
Yeah, so our heroine is Sydney, and we meet her when she's breaking into the house of the rival team's hockey team's captain's house. She's looking for something that she thinks he took from her. She can't find it, and she ends up finding his playbook instead. So, being the petty little bitch she is, she takes pictures of it, and she, goes about her day. Um, he ends up finding her, and after a little not so nice conversation, she says, "Well, you know what? I'm just gonna send these pictures that I took to my ex-boyfriend, who's the captain of my school's team." Everybody finds out, everything goes wrong, and a year later, Sydney finds herself transferring into the rival team's school because her father is the coach there. So that kind of kicks it off. And we have some bullies, we have some stalkers, we have some like actual bad guys. There's some suspense wrapped in there. Her mom's missing. There's a lot going on, but it's spicy, it's dark, and what more do you need?
Honestly, you've sold me. You know the stuff that we want.
Yeah,
What is your process? Like, are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? Do you sink from way up before you start a new story? And yeah, how quickly does it take you to write? Because it doesn't sound like it takes you too long at all.
that's the procrastinator side of me that makes it seem like it doesn't take a long time. I would say comfortably it takes me 2 to 3 months to finish a book, or at least like get it ready for edits. Um, but yeah, my writing process is I do not plot. Plotting is the enemy. I think because I tried to plot take one of this book and then that just spectacularly failed. So I don't plot and I let the characters kind of tell me what's up. The only thing I do keep in the back of my mind, usually like when I'm writing, is if there's a bad guy or a suspense subplot, 8 times out of 10, I know who the bad guy is and I can see that coming. But on the very rare occasion, even I am surprised when we get to that, like climax part, and I'm like, oh my God, the bad guy's who? Which is fun. But yeah, I try to write, every day a little bit, or else I'll get like rusty. But other than that, I just kind of wing it. I'm still figuring that out.
That's incredible. I kind of love too that you're still exploring your process, even having now done this for what, 6 years now. Have you had your 6 year anniversary?
It's coming up this year. It'll be in, oh gosh, when did that first book release? October? October, I think.
When you are writing, and you said before that you obviously have these little moments, like you're just like, wait, that's who, or this has done what? What do you think has been one of the biggest? Is there like a particular book that has been the biggest surprise for you while writing it? Or like, I know you just said you had to scrap the original one of this one, but was there just anything that really it just sticks with you even to now that you're like, I had no idea that that was coming. This just like unlocked a new level of my writing that I have no idea what's happening, but yet I did the whole time somehow.
Yes, one comes to mind is, well, okay, actually, the bad guy in Brutal Obsession, Violet, the heroine, has a stalker, and I did not know who it was for a while. But the most shocking one was in Twisted Obsession. Um, there's, I think it's like 65-70%. There's the plot twist. And when I was typing it, my jaw was like on the floor. I was like, what is happening right now? But then I read back and I was like, this fits. This works perfectly. Like, I don't have to change anything. So, Twisted Obsession, one of the Hockey Gods books.
It's one of those moments where you have you like, am I a genius? Without realizing it, am I a creative genius?
Yeah. Like, why does this work so well? Like, who did this? Because it wasn't me, but somebody in my brain was paying attention.
I want to talk social media because you do have a prominent presence on social media. So I'm very curious as to any advice or tips you have for fellow writers and what you like to focus on as well.
So I personally, if we're talking about like Instagram, which is I feel like where I am more often than not, um, teasers do really well, I think. I do the sporadic picture of my face just so people somewhat remember what I look like. But also, I lead kind of a boring life, so I don't have that much to post about like my life in general anyway. So it's like if I do something fun, I'm like, here you go, guys. Here's what I did. But yeah, mostly book stuff. I think reels do well if you're looking to like gain your following. They're shown to more people, but I mean, I'll go weeks without posting if I don't have anything to say because I don't want to just be posting filler. I'm sure, there's pros and cons to that, but I feel like it's something that it's not the top priority in my list. So, it kind of if I have limited time, it usually falls off first.
And that's good though to hear as well, because I think often we can get so focused on trying to have ourselves across all the social medias that we're not focusing on writing anymore.
Hmm.
I do want to add on to that as well, like in a personal experience regarding Reels. So I had end of last year, Facebook terminated my Facebook and Instagram account. Not fun. So I had to restart, and I was nervous about doing Reels because I suspect maybe one of those were like the reason why. And my co-author was like, no, just stick with it. And within 6 months, my following was back up to 10K. So if you are consistent with, and again, that's just personal experience, but I do find Reels can be, especially if you're already posting on TikTok, repurposing those a couple of days later onto Instagram. I find that sometimes helps as well. If anyone's watching, everyone's different, obviously. But I think your advice is sound when you're saying that it's usually the first thing to drop off priority list. I think that's important too, because I think if you're posting here, there every single day, it's also mentally exhausting. Do you have like little retreats now and then from social media where you're just like, I just can't do this anymore? I love you guys, but there's a lot happening and I need time out for myself.
I think I'm unfortunately a little bit addicted to social media, so I haven't taken a successful break. I will say if I stop posting and like my everything will kind of get quiet and so that's fine. That's kind of like a break, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do try to do what you said though. If I post on TikTok, then I post it over to Instagram, but I mean, I'm very sporadic with TikTok as well.
So your branding is on point. And I said this before the interview, and I'll say it in the interview just to double flatter you, but I came across your books and your brand probably, I think, for the first time about a year ago. And your books have always stood out to me because your brand, for me personally, but I imagine a lot of people agree, it's just so on point. And then I deep dived into your website because I'm a total stalker. Girl, author goals, like your website is so immaculate. It gives you all the information that you need. And what impressed me the most as well was your store. And I know that a lot of people are quite nervous about or don't know how to create that store. It is a lot of effort and it does take a lot of time. Um, but I would like to know why you thought it was important to make sure that there was a sales base from you specifically outside of like Amazon and all everywhere else. What was your push to make that decision?
So I was doing like special editions for signings, like foiled covers, um, of my already existing covers. And I had a lot of people saying that, like, oh, I can't make it to the signing, but like I want these books. I'm like, you're right. It should be accessible for people who like, because signings are so expensive nowadays. If you're not local, then you have to pay for your hotel on top of your ticket, and then books on top of even getting in and food and everything else. So it can be a little bit cost prohibitive, but ordering a single book or three books online and paying for shipping, that's better. Um, so that's why we started the store. However, it is a massive time suck. So when I'm like this month, yeah, we're still in July. This month has been like the deadline central for me. So we haven't done a lot. We did a restock earlier this month or like the end of last month, something like that. And we processed a bunch of orders and got them out. And I was like, I am just gonna shut it down. so I don't have to think about it. And then we're gonna open it up again next month. Um, because like it's great, but it's time consuming. And if I want to keep this career, I need to write. And so like writing is always priority number one, even though I procrastinate, and then the rest. But yeah, I do like my store. And my website was I outsourced the design, so I cannot take credit for that. And the company or the girl who did it is actually in Australia. So there you go.
It's very interesting, like in the behind the scenes, people assume we write books, but when you're doing things, as you said, like stores and such, it is very time consuming because you're the person behind it, grabbing each book that needs to go out, wrapping it to make sure it's secure, boxing it, printing out all the labels, and that's very time consuming. And so it's not, unfortunately, like you're at the point yet, or you could be, who knows, like these are goals, but you have a warehouse where you have staff who can do that. Like you're still, hi, it's me, I'm the person that does it. Like you're still the person that's doing it as well, so you have all these different levels. And I think it's actually quite smart and strategic as well to only have it open on certain months, because then that way, yes, you're going to have an influx, but you're also mentally prepared for it, and readers know you only have this amount of time to order as well. So I think it's a little bit more organized, perhaps, that way,
Yeah.
mentally.
Mentally, yeah. And it also gives me a chance to get all my inventory in because I don't. So I just moved across the country a few months ago. I was living on the East Coast in Massachusetts, and now I live in California. So I drove all the way across. And now I live right down the street from my parents. And so my dad has taken over being my shipping manager, where I used to work for him. Now I don't want to say he works for me, but he works with me. So he handles all of that, but I mean, I still have to sign the books, and kind of make sure that he's grabbing the right ones because there's so many different covers of everything. Um, yeah, so the time-consuming part is a lot, but happy to do it when I have time. And he is on it. He is not a procrastinator like me. He is like, "Oh, you opened your store yesterday and we have orders, like, let's do it." And I'm like, "I thought we were gonna wait at least 2 days, but okay, that's fine. We'll do
Yeah.
it."
I just want to have like a little moment then, because like I don't know if it's a weird thing to say, but you come across as like very humble, and I absolutely adore that about you. And I want to take a moment with you to appreciate the fact that you are now here at this point in your life where you have been able to hire on your best friend, to hire on your dad. How gratifying is that to be at this point in your life where you're like, wow, look what I've built, and I'm able to bring the people that I love in a part of this journey as well. That sounds really fucking cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. And I feel like as cool as it sounds, I feel like I'm not doing enough for them. Like my goal in my head is for my best friend who lives on the East Coast. I'm like, one day I will make enough where you can move to California and just work with me full time and you'll be fine. And my dad, I mean, I worked for him. He helped me buy my first house. My parents are like the most supportive people you've ever met. They have hearts of gold. They also both owned their own businesses. So growing up, like I saw just like the entrepreneurship of both of them, which was really cool. So yeah, I don't think I'm doing, I feel like I want to do more, but that's a future goal that I just keep in the back of my head because it's not like I don't do this like for the money, like for me. I don't want to like just like hoard it away. You know,
I
I want
love
my best friend to work out here with me and, have a good life and like travel and stuff. So
I don't want to come on strong, but I feel like I just fell in love with you. So just like that's really, it's incredible to hear. And I think part of in this industry as well, we always have that. We want to be able to do more. We can do more. We should be able to do more. But the reality is also is it can be a very exhausting journey as well. Like a lot of people burn out. We give ourselves really tight, sometimes even unrealistic deadlines that we somehow still manage to achieve. But when we do those repetitively, it does slowly tire us down. So have you ever been hit with burnout or close to, or what are the things that you do to make sure that you don't burn out?
yeah, I think it was last year. I think it was last year in September. It might have been the year before, 2022-ish. I don't know. I was very much just like on the brink of like, I don't think I can do this anymore. Like everything's going wrong. I need to just stop. And so I was like, September is your break. You're not writing, you're not doing anything. You're just going to exist and like refill the well or whatever. And I got 4 days into that break and I was like, I have an idea for a paranormal romance. And so I wrote a paranormal book in the month of September that I should not have written. So like it was it burnout? I don't know. Maybe I was just tired of contemporary, but it's still sitting on my hard drive. I haven't done anything with it.
You have so many readers listening to this going, what do you mean? What do you mean we have another book that we haven't got yet?
Yeah. It was a wolf shifter and witch romance. It was fun, but
And have not
I don't know.
published that because you feel like it doesn't sit right now with your brand or you're not sure exactly what you wrote or
I feel yeah, it's I've debated publishing it. I did put it on Vella for a brief moment in time, but just to experience like the serial kind of form, but I didn't, it wasn't for me. Um, yeah, and then I ran out of time. So it got my schedule was stacked with other projects. It's like I cannot go back to this paranormal because like one, what if people love it and then I have to write paranormal more? That's terrifying. I love to read paranormal and fantasy, but like I don't know if I'd do it justice. And then, two, what if they hate it? And then I'm like, that sucks.
never mind, I'm going to take that off.
Yeah. So it's just been hidden away. Maybe one day I'll bring it out or publish it under a pen name or something. But for now, I think sports romance and reverse harem and MF dark stuff is just where I'm gonna hide out. If I ever go into like burnout-ish again, maybe I'll write book two.
I've heard this before though, and I think even I've done it myself, but I find if you have a palette cleanser of genre, it sometimes changes it a bit because there's different expectations or boundaries, or sometimes you're like, I don't know what I'm writing, but this is fun.
Yeah, that was me in the beginning. I was like, I don't know what's happening.
What advice then do you have for fellow authors when it comes to writing like dark sports romance? Do you so I'm really far from sports romance because I'm not athletic. I'm just not into it. So I'm always curious as to how deeply you follow like the rules and the jargon, or do you only loosely touch on those aspects but really focus more so on the characters and such?
So in the beginning, Brutal Obsession was my first hockey romance and sports romance, really. And I didn't really know anything about hockey besides like what I could Google. And so all of the hockey that was in it, because I felt like if I was gonna write a hockey romance, I want there to be actual hockey in it. I've noticed I haven't read any hockey romances because I've been in this line, but I've heard that some hockey romance books don't actually have hockey in it. And I'm like, that's a crime. There should be a hockey game in it if you're gonna. Anyway, if you're one of those authors that didn't put hockey in your hockey romance, it's fine. I forgive you a little bit. Um, you better next time. I'm just kidding. So I knew nothing. So all of the hockey games were from my heroine's point of view because she also knew nothing. And I was like, this is cheating, but I think it works. But then I started getting into the sport, which is devastating. I just started watching hockey. We went to a hockey game in person at the NHL level, which is like the pro level, and then there's a step below it called the AHL, which is a lot cheaper to go to. And so me and my friend went to so many of those games, and I was like, I think I like hockey, which is really unfortunate. So yeah, so then now I'm a hockey fan and I learned a lot and I made friends with people who like hockey too. One of my friends coaches hockey, and so I go to her with all my crazy questions, and also my old neighbor who I don't know what it is about guys that can like their brains just hold on to sports facts, and I
Mhm.
don't get it. It's like, hey, like who won the Stanley Cup in like 1982? He would just spit it out. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, it's not normal. Those two are great resources. And now I know the sport and I understand the rules, and I'm like, shoot, we're in it now. It's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
you've delved deep. You're there.
Yeah, we're totally committed.
You also have co-written as well. You actually have a release, I believe, coming out the end of this year.
Yeah.
How did you find the co-writing process? What was your plan of attack? Like, does she write one chapter, you write one chapter, or different POVs? How does that work for you?
We each took a character. I know we had discussed that there were different ways of co-writing. Um, but at the end of the day, yeah, we're just like we're just gonna split it and do back and forth. But like I took the guy and she took the girl character. And we would plot like two chapters ahead at a time, so we kind of knew where we were going, but it was still pantsing in a way, which is good, which I needed. Um, but yeah, it was really fun. We were both really busy throughout writing Sticks and Stones. Um, so it was kind of like a back burner project, but we each only had to write a chapter and then pass it back. So it wasn't a lot of like a huge time commitment. It was really only like writing half a book. So it worked out really well. And yeah, our next one comes out in December. So we're gonna start writing that next month. Yeah. We
Uh,
tried to start it and then I was like, I have so many deadlines. And she's like, I have a surgery. I'm like, okay, we're
you're
gonna
so
pause.
you're so real. It's hilarious. Like I feel kind of called out a little bit myself. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm like, oh yeah, that book that's due in like a month's time. Yeah, like we're still going through that, but it's fine. It'll rock up on the day.
You'll get it. You'll get there. It's fine.
And I think that also has a lot to do with understanding your process. Like a lot of people, like what we're talking about right now, probably gives a lot of people anxiety and hives. And they're just like, what do you mean? What do you mean you put out for pre order and it's not written? But I think you also come to a point as well where you trust your process. You know what you're capable of. You know that you're probably going to pants for 6 weeks out of the 3 months that you give yourself. You're like, yeah, we'll get there. And then the last 6 weeks, you're like, okay, now we write, now we do the thing, and it's
Yeah.
still there. Here I am trying to justify the process.
Yeah, we're coming up to the end of our deadline for Sticks and Stones last year. We wanted to finish by like we wanted to finish by mid-October, I think. And I was on a cruise at the end of September, and then she was doing something right after, and I'm like, we have to write like 5K every day to hit our deadline. And she was like, that's not gonna happen. Like, I agree. So we just like pushed the deadline a little bit and then we made it and it was fine. But, you know, these things happen.
And it's not necessarily for everyone, but there may be points in your career where there has to be a slight delay where you have to push it back and just be kind to yourself. Remember that you're a human being. Like, I think often we're like, no, but I know I've done this before. I could do this again. We're so harsh and critical on ourselves. And it's okay to need a little bit more time on certain projects. It's totally fine.
I loathe pushing back stuff. But like if I book a slot with my editor, I am going to make that
Yeah.
no matter what. And then if I have to bump it, which I think I've had to do twice in the years that I've been working with her, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And she's like, it's okay.
One thing that I love as well is you also have Patreon. So I have turned into a Patreon fan this year. I had an author's like, do it. I'm like, absolutely not, because I was scared. I was scared to step into it. I didn't know what Patreon was about. I didn't understand it. And it looked like a lot of work. Now, 6 months in, I love Patreon. I'm telling all my friends, do it. You need to do it. You need to do this. And
Mm.
I would love to know why you started it and what advice you have for authors when stepping into this new big scary platform that is actually, in my opinion, great.
Yeah, I think I can't even remember when I started. It must have been last year, I think, at some point. Um, and I just wanted to be able to share things early with people because I have a lot of balls that I juggle, and there's projects that are done that I can't talk about because like we're in the middle of promoting a new release, but I've had like X, Y, and Z done. I'm like, I just want to tell people. And so it became like a little like safe haven kind of where I could just like share. So they get cover reveals early and they get snippets and behind the scenes and whatever else. I actually posted every single chapter of The Pucking Coach's Daughter early. So they got to read the full book early, but they had to deal with me posting one chapter a day for 5 days a week for 2 months, 2.5 months. God bless them. I
That's
love it. Yeah. They had some nasty cliffhangers because, like, of course, like the worst scenes would, like, you know, the chapter would end and it'd be a Friday, and then the next one would be coming on Monday. I was like, Happy Friday, guys. Sorry. But they seemed into it, and it was a good way to like fill the space. I know a lot of other authors do that too. They post by the chapter, but the book was done for the
yeah.
record. Like I wasn't like still writing it. Luckily, I think that would
Especially after you've written the chapter, send.
hit send. Oh God, no, that's stressful. But yeah, they like it. I think I would say that for authors wanting to start it, your subscribers won't expect you to post that much. Like if you can hit them with posts like 2 or 3 times a month, then you're doing good. But it should be something like just for them. And then we do a tier that does paperbacks. I've been staring at it right next to me. This is a thick monster, by the way. I don't know if you've seen it in
That's a
person.
nice size.
Yeah. So they get those and they get an art print.
Oh, so nice. What I find interesting is when I have conversations with authors who are considering Patreon, but they're like, oh, it's a lot of effort, but also almost immediately, one of the first things that they'll say is, but who's going to want to do that? Who is going to want to spend, whatever different level of tiers you have? Nobody's going to want to spend that. And I had the same apprehension, and I was like, oh, what if no readers want that? And what has surprised me the most is I feel like this is the place where you really discover who really does support your journey and your writing career. And they're so excited to receive that information, those behind the scenes things that they won't get anywhere else. And it creates this like really intimate community, I want to say, as well, more than what you have on a Facebook group, in my opinion, but more than on a Facebook group or anything else. And so it always surprises me when the self-worth talk comes into, especially as women. I've interviewed male authors and they are good. They're sweet. They're confident. They know. They're like, yeah, I did this and it was great because I'm great. Whereas us as women, as authors, like, oh, but nobody's gonna want it. Like, what advice do you have for authors who experience that? And do you have moments of that self-doubt or even imposter syndrome?
Oh, 1000% imposter syndrome, self-worth. Yeah. You name it, I've been there. I have I put up a $100 tier on my Patreon, and I'm like, they get, they kind of get the works. So and I wanted to make it worth it. But I was like, nobody's gonna sign up for this. This is crazy. And that has been sold out like for a while. And like if somebody drops out, somebody else comes into it. I'm like, I think that's a good like proof of it. Like they're the super fans and they get stuff. I was like, I'm just gonna put it up. Like I'm not expecting anything. And then like my mind is just continually blown. Yeah, Patreon is a cool place.
So what we're saying is just do it, go for it, do it.
hmm And like if nobody wants that tier, then it'll just hang out, or I'll eventually take it down. But it was popular and it's still popular. So I mean, I was looking at also other authors who they have even higher tiers than that. I'm like, okay, if they can do it, like I can do it, even if I'm not gonna get any takers. But then I did. So you can too.
100%. And I think that's actually a good point too, is if you are looking at doing Patreon, have a look at other authors, see what they're doing for their tiers and that, because I know that can seem overwhelming. But
Yeah.
once you look at other authors, you're like, oh, okay, actually, I can do that. I can do a post about this once a month. Like it is a lot easier once you've set it up.
Yeah. Yep.
Amazing.
And you can look and see. There's so many authors on Patreon. You can see how their tiers are set up, what they offer, I mean, if you're feeling adventurous, you can subscribe to one of their things and like take a look at what they post, but you know, it's important to do your own thing too. You don't want to be like X, Y, and Z author posts on Tuesdays and she like does this. So that's what I'm gonna do to be successful. Like I don't think it works like that.
What top three things do you do on every release? You're like, this has to be done, or do you change your release strategy?
I am always experimenting. I would say top three, I always send out a newsletter. I always do Facebook ads. And I usually post across social media. I think that's probably the three main things. And then most of the other like hard or like heavy lifting marketing stuff comes before the book comes out. But like for release, ads, social media, and newsletter.
With your ads, do you favor Facebook, Amazon, BookBub, or all of them?
Generally Facebook. That's what I'm most comfortable with.
What has been the most surprising thing for you in this industry?
I would say making friends, which sounds bad, but um for any readers listening out there, if you talk to me long enough and like we have a conversation, eventually we'll just become friends and like that's kind of like the way it goes. Unfortunately, I just like hold on to people with all my might if they're nice. But yeah, I mean, the authors that I've met and befriended, everybody is so supportive. So I wouldn't say it's surprising, but I think compared to like other industries, it's or even other genres, like the romance authors are just kind to each other, which is lovely.
What would
Yeah.
you say your greatest challenge and your greatest achievement has been so far in your writing career?
Ooh, greatest challenge. Probably comparing myself to people, like thinking that like if I don't do as well as whoever, then I'm not like succeeding. But I just, defining your success not against other people has been a challenge, but like a good one for me, like a good mental brain exercise. Um, because that's just it's just like a habit to compare yourself to other people. I feel like they beat that into you when you're in school and stuff. So like just crack it. Greatest achievement would probably be, oh, I don't know. I was really happy when I hit the top 100 in Amazon for the first time. The Puck and Coach's daughter is currently sitting at in the 30s, I think, in the store, which is crazy. Um, yeah, major accomplishments, but also like being able to hire my friend. And I bought this house, which was crazy. And like even like way back when, like my very first like big paycheck, I paid off my student loans, and that felt it was big at the time, and it's still big now because I was like, I did that, all my money, you know, now I'm free of that debt. So, yeah, those are some publishing and personal accomplishments that resulted.
Congratulations on all of those because they're massive feats and well deserved.
Thank you.
What is the biggest dream? What is the goal that you are aiming for your author career?
I don't know. I don't think I actively have one. I just want to keep getting better, you know? I want to write better books, like more complex books, fun books. I don't know. That's really kind of it. That's kind of a lame answer,
That
but
sounds
yeah.
like you're already living your dream, though. Like, it sounds like you're so happy where you're at and you're just excited to see what's to come.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's the quality of the books that I just want to keep progressing. So, and I think the rest kind of will just come along with that with time and experience.
Yes. Well, I have a little segment called Speed Dating with an Author. So I've lit a candle, I've created ambience. Are you ready for five rapid questions?
Love it. Let's do it.
Let's go. What is the clumsiest moment you've ever had?
I've fallen in school before, like in high school. I think I fell like right on my face in front of people and promptly wanted to die of embarrassment.
What are the three words that best describe you?
I'm gonna say funny because I think I'm funny, even if other people don't agree. Sarcastic and kind.
Love those three. Well, I think you're funny too. So if somebody doesn't think that, they can't sit with us.
Can you just tell my best friend that,
Yeah.
please? Send a memo.
Yeah. I'll be like, do you realize how funny your friend is? And she'll be like, that one? No.
She'd be like, did she pay you to t say that? Maybe.
What is the song that best describes you?
Oh, goodness gracious. The Middle by Jimmy Eats World.
I'm gonna go re-listen to that song after
It's
this.
a great one. I was just belting it in the car the other day with my parents in the car, and they were like, is she okay?
What who should I say who has been your favorite character to write and why?
I have I keep saying him, so I'm just gonna stick with my tried and true Knox Whiteshaw from Fierce Obsession. He is a blabbermouth. He cannot keep a secret to save his life. And he's probably the funniest that I've ever been in a character. Um, he could have a body like in the back seat of his car and talking to a police officer, he'd be like, hypothetically. He'd be like, shh. He's a good one.
I'm curious now because like I also think I'm a funny person. So like whenever I get like you could get all these 5-star reviews, but whenever anybody is like characters are so witty, I'm like, do you think I'm funny? Do you get that?
Yes, yes, I do. I
Fantastic. I'm
did,
gonna
I did a panel at a signing, and readers kept coming up and they were like, we loved you. You were cracking us up. And my best friend was my assistant. And I just kept looking at her, like smiling, and she was like, stop it.
what is a unique talent or skill set that you have that not a lot of people know about?
I mean, I used to play the piano, so that used to be a talent. But I'm learning the cello currently. So I'm not any good yet. I've only had 2 lessons, but I'm getting there.
When when I see you in October, I do expect a performance. Um,
Love it.
so I'm excited.
I'll just pack, I'll pack the cello with my books.
Please do, and then we'll just have a moment with you on the cello. I'll post a TikTok, guys. Don't worry, you'll see it. It's fine.
In the middle of Vegas.
Sarah, I have had an absolute blast meeting you today and going through your writing journey and your publishing magnificence, I'm going to say, because you're humble, so I'm going to say it for you. But you've just been smashing goals. So what do we need to be on the lookout for? What's coming out? And most importantly, where do we find you?
Okay, on the lookout. I am relaunching my Fallen Royals series that is coming very soon. Um, and that's like Dark Bully, high school, but it got a glow up if you've read it prior. Um, a big glow up, like anyway. I'm also doing more hockey. We have, if you've read the Hockey Gods, you'll recognize the name Camden Church. He is coming next, kicking off his own series in January. And there's more Reverse Harem to come, but not related to hockey. This is a Sterling Falls spinoff. So a lot of things in the works. And where you can find me, I am at author S Massery on Instagram and Facebook, and just S Massery on TikTok.
Amazing. Nailed it. I I absolutely appreciate you coming on today. You have been a lot of fun. And for everyone, I'll pop all those details down below as well. But yeah, keep on the lookout because you have a lot of things coming out. So I can't wait to see them.
So much stuff. It's gonna be good.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, we're going to love you and leave you. Have a good day. Bye.